Good morning, Fullerton. I'm Mayor Jennifer Fitzgerald. I'm glad to be with you this morning. Just trying a new way to communicate with Fullerton about how our city is responding to COVID-19, and to answer some of the questions that you've had. If you're like me, had a lot of questions. Your kids have probably been asking you a lot of questions. You're wondering how long we're all going to be at home, when we can get back to our lives and back to work. And so we just wanted to try to have a conversation. I know it's stilted and awkward, and we can't have a face-to-face conversation right now. But hopefully this will be positive. We'll get to talk more like this. So I do want to thank you and welcome you to our first virtual town hall. I want to thank the community for stepping up during this time, for adhering outstandingly to the governor's stay-at-home order. I know that we've all had and continue to have different struggles with the stay-at-home. I know that we've all had struggles and currently do with the governor's stay-at-home order, but I really want to thank the community for stepping up and for showing the seriousness that this situation requires. I also want to thank my colleagues on the City Council, Mayor Pro Tem Jan Flory, and Council members Jesus Silva, Ahmad Zara, and Bruce Whitaker for their collaboration and their continued commitment, that we all work alongside each other to make sure that Fullerton stays safe and healthy, and responds in appropriate ways to this crisis. I want to thank too not only our city staff, especially our frontline responders and our public safety officers, all those in essential services for this city who keep working every day to make sure that the residents of this community are served well. And I really want to talk to you today about the latest things that we in Fullerton are doing in response to this crisis, and then also to answer questions that came in through Instagram and through our email request. Uh, so let's just get started. Let me give you some of the latest news. As you may have heard, the Fullerton City Council at our last City Council meeting voted to enhance Orange County's requirement for face coverings for employees at essential businesses by also requiring patrons of those businesses to also wear face masks. That local order took effect last Friday, April 24th. And I have been asked by a lot of people, how is it enforced? We do have a city municipal code as well as a government code section provided for in the county regulation that allows us, if necessary, to enforce that requirement. And this is what I would say. I know that, our city council was divided on the issue, and I know that many in town are divided on the issue, and I understand. And so I would ask you to wear belt and suspenders right now, right? Usually we only either wear a belt or suspenders to keep our pants up, but this is a situation that really requires both. And the adage "you can't be too careful" applies well here. So please do your part to protect your family, your friends, neighbors, and loved ones, and wear a face covering when you're running those essential errands. If you want more information about this order, you can go to our city's website at cityoffullerton.com/news. Again, our city website is cityoffullerton.com/news. And that's just a great resource in general right now. When you pull up the city's website, the first thing you're going to see is a COVID-19 update. So for a lot of questions that need to be answered by people other than the city, questions that need to be answered by the Orange County Health Agency or the Center for Disease Control or the governor's office. We have links to those websites at our city website. So while we aren't determining those answers, we can point you to those answers that you need. I want to tell you a little bit about how our fire and our emergency medical teams are responding in this crisis. Some of you, if you have a medical emergency, as always, you need to dial 911 and you will get emergency teams responding to you. And they will continue to keep our community safe, and they're keeping themselves safe as well. So let me just tell you that when our fire department is dispatched on an emergency call, uh, they are asking for a little more information. If it is a suspected COVID-19 related call, they will suit up more than usual with enhanced personal protective equipment. So for maximum protection, firefighters wear a respirator, a face shield, a gown, and gloves. That limits their potential exposure, and only one member of the crew approaches the patient to do an assessment. But again, we don't want you to forego dialing 911 because of the crisis that we're in. We are here to respond and we're ready to respond in an appropriate manner that protects both our firefighters and emergency professionals and you and your family. I also want to let you know that we have e-library cards available. You may have needed to pick up a couple additional hobbies while you're at home. We have the puzzle table in our house set up all the time, and we're doing a lot more reading than we usually have time for. So the Fullerton Library understands that, and while we've had to close our library right now, we do have free electronic resources. So you can still enjoy access to digital resources by visiting the library's website at fullertonlibrary.org. Again, the library's website is fullertonlibrary.org. You can download and borrow books, you can learn a new language, you can browse the latest news and magazines from all over the United States. And you'll see me all throughout this call refer to my notes. I want to make sure I get these questions in, and I want to make sure I give you accurate information. So excuse me if I'm referring to my notes so much. Many of us are concerned about the Orange County testing network. We all have heard from both the federal government and the state government that effective enhanced testing is integral to getting our communities back to work and back to school. So I want you to know that the Orange County Healthcare Agency has announced a testing network to coordinate and expand testing across Orange County with 18 different testing sites. More details and a list of those test sites with information on scheduling and the appointment process can be found at their website, which is ochealthinfo.com/novel coronavirus. Again, I know it's a long one, but it's ochealthinfo.com/novel coronavirus. Or you can call the healthcare agency's health referral line at 1-800-564-8448. And just so you know, our city council and others across this county are constantly seeking more information and really pushing the healthcare agency and the Board of Supervisors to give us more information about when their comprehensive testing sites will be launched and up and running, because we know, again, as I said earlier, how integral that testing network is for getting our communities back up and running. So please understand it is of the highest priorities to us, as I know it is to you. We also here in Fullerton have a COVID-19 e-newsletter, and we are working closely again with the healthcare agency and other organizations to provide real-time updated information about what's going on related to this crisis. So you can sign up for our Fullerton COVID-19 updates. Again, all of these things can be accessed through our city website. So please sign up for our Fullerton COVID-19 updates. Alerts and information are provided through our website at cityofFullerton.com/subscribe. Just select COVID-19 when you do that. And that way you'll be getting up to the minute updates. As we know information, we will pass it along to you. I also wanted to let you know about senior services here in town. As a vulnerable population in town, we want to make sure that we're going above and beyond to make sure we connect with seniors who need assistance. And the governor did outline last Friday a program working with FEMA to provide seniors meals from local restaurants. So the city is preparing to join in this partnership, and we're reaching out to local restaurants to see who is interested in participating with us. I do want you to know that Meals on Wheels continues to operate, and 955 people have been helped through that. We're also doing grocery distribution in partnership with Second Harvest Food Bank. 650 grocery boxes have been delivered. And then in partnership with EV Free Fullerton Church, we've created a Senior Buddies program, and they are working with volunteers to deliver meals to seniors. 72 different seniors are serviced with this opportunity every week. My family and I have been really glad to participate. We've made a new friend who's a senior in town, and it's been a great way for us to show love for our neighbors during this time, to be able to bring her groceries once a week and just to touch base with her. And I would encourage you, there are more seniors who need this kind of assistance and can inquire about signing up for this program if you go to the website lovefullerton.org. I know I'm giving you a lot of websites here, but that's how most of this communication is happening right now. Okay, I know you want to get to your questions, so let's just dig into them. One of the questions that we received is related to how much authority does the city have in determining what types of businesses can open and when, and then what would those occupancy requirements be? And so I would just let you know that the city has to follow the county health guidelines for reopening, but each organization, nonprofit, government, businesses, each individual is preparing plans for their operations for when we are given the green light to reopen. At the city, each of our departments is working on plans to ensure proper social distancing, proper hygiene and safety for employees and patrons. And we're encouraging all local businesses and organizations to do the same. This week, following this initial town hall, I'm going to be having meetings with various industry groups, nonprofit groups, to talk with them about how they can start preparing when we're given the green light. But again, please understand the city council in Fullerton does not have the authority to reopen our community. Have to follow the lead of the Orange County Health Agency. I would say one other thing in regards to this question, that the greater Orange County business community, along with city managers and the Board of Supervisors, and the Board of Supervisors task force that they created for economic recovery, is all looking at general guidelines for reopening our communities. And I'm watching that process and participating in that process very closely. There's another question about is there a chance that the city will allow open air events like concerts in the park to take place during this season? And again, I would just say that the city will follow state and county guidelines in response to open air events. As you know, our farmers markets continue to stay open because they are an essential service, and we have modified the way that those farmers markets are run to ensure proper social distancing, safety and health of those working there and those coming there. So as we are able to reopen more activities in town, then we'll be ready to do that. Let's see. There is also a question about city events related to the prior question. There's a budgetary question wondering about with the city layoffs that we've had to do. Is there a way that citizens can volunteer and help coordinate any of those events? And I will tell you that every city is having to make very difficult budgetary decisions, because we know that just like all of us individually and businesses have been really financially negatively impacted, to say the least, from this crisis, so has the city budget. And as this city council looks toward creating a new budget for the next fiscal year, which starts July 1st, there are going to be some really difficult decisions, I think, to make. So it might create a wonderful opportunity for volunteers in this community and for the nonprofits in this community to step in and fill the gap that I am concerned will be left with some of the city services, city events, like as was mentioned, those concerts in the park. So perhaps there is a way, when we get the go-ahead, to gather safely again, to harness the power of volunteers to keep events going. Nothing I would like more. Let's see, there's a question about how when businesses, specifically restaurants, are allowed to reopen. How do I see occupancy being set in a way that makes it worthwhile for the businesses and safe for the patrons? And it's a great question. I do understand the needs of the business community and the Economic Recovery Advisory Committee that we've set up. And I'll just back up to say Councilman Ahmad Zara asked at our last city council meeting if the city of Fullerton would set up a task force for economic recovery. And I supported him in that effort. And so that Economic Recovery Advisory Committee will be looking at how the city can support and encourage businesses in the development of their own plans for ensuring that those businesses can still make it and they can still adhere to those distancing guidelines as they reopen. Let's see, another resident asked about the Sci-Fi Network. And the question is, I'm going to read the question, but I want to clarify because there's a misunderstanding of what sci-fi is. So this question is, I've heard that Sci-Fi Network is installing this new 5G network for a smart city project. Does the city council have any concerns with the reports of what 5G does to people? Okay, so let me go back just a little and explain what sci-fi actually is. So sci-fi is not installing 5G. Sci-fi is installing in every street in Fullerton a fiber network that residents and businesses can attach to that will greatly enhance, over 10 times the speed with which you can access uh, data-rich sites like Netflix and for businesses, all of the software and manufacturing software that you need. So they are actually laying the fiber in streets. Right now, they're working in West Fullerton, and the goal is it is in partnership with the city. It's it's a first in the nation city-wide laying of this fiber this fiber cable. And their goal is to be done by mid 2021, laying this fiber on every street in Fullerton. So the network enables residents, as I said, and businesses to sign up for higher speed gigabit service through two service providers, either Ting or Gigabit Now. So that fiber enables 5G rather than installs it. It's the backhaul system. That fiber is really a backhaul system, but it's really an infrastructure project. And if you see them out, they are working now because the essential services outlined by the governor include telecommunications work. So I would say in answer to his last concern about what 5G does to people, the city of Fullerton does not have control over time, place, or manner when it comes to 5G installation or rollout. That's controlled by the Federal Communications Commission. Okay, let's talk about let's talk about a question. And you'll see through some of this, these are great questions, and the city unfortunately won't have answers to all of these. But this resident is asking about COVID-19 attacks those with weakened immune systems. And so he's concerned that not once has he seen a medical person recommend how to improve our immune system to help fight off this virus. He would direct us to the Cleveland Clinic website on how to improve your immune system. I would say this to this resident and to all of you. Those of you in a vulnerable population with pre-existing conditions that COVID can exacerbate. Stay home, stay well, contact your doctor if you have any concerns, and make sure that you are keeping in touch and referring to the CDC website. Another resident asks, what are the limits on social gatherings? And is there a possibility of lightening up by the month of June? And I would say, I certainly hope that we will be able to plan for safe social gatherings soon. The limits on social gatherings are that we all and each should stay at home unless we have essential services that we need. And there is a prohibition on social gatherings. I know it's made even tougher as the weather has gotten so warm now. You want to go, gather with your friends and your networks and picnic in the park and all of that. I completely get that. I have two little kids who are in the same boat. And so I would encourage you to continue to follow the governor's order to stay at home. Uh, one question was from a resident who said that they believe that they had COVID earlier this year and that they want to donate plasma. They want to know where antibody tests will be made available for Fullerton residents. The city of Fullerton is not a healthcare agency, and we don't have the control over how testing is implemented and where testing is implemented. It's my understanding that we don't have antibody tests here in Fullerton, but I definitely understand the need. I have heard from quite a few people that they want to be tested for the antibodies, and I'm hopeful that the county healthcare agency is working on that issue. I had quite a few questions about the decision to implement the mandate to wear face masks when going into businesses. And these questions range from this question, what factors and facts did the city council use to decide to implement and force residents of Fullerton to wear face masks? Will the city council reconsider this decision at its next city council meeting? He goes on to say, we the people should have the choice and it should not be mandated by any person, agency, council, or government. And he goes on to state, why he believes that. I would just say it was a difficult decision and it wasn't a unanimous decision. And I would refer you back to our city council meeting to review the reasons each council member gave for their vote. And all of those recordings are on our city's website. And then there's another question. So it ranges from that question to another resident who asked, why has Orange County or Fullerton, why haven't they made face coverings mandatory for everyone out in the public or anywhere that they go, like other cities and counties around us have done? And again, I would just refer you to our last city council meeting when we discussed it to see the answers for why that is from each of our city council meetings. And then there are a couple more questions exactly like that. Another resident is asking about, will there be requirements for the city of Fullerton to have sanitizing, disinfecting treatments for schools, daycares, restaurants, etc. before they reopen to assure safety to the community for both young and elderly in regards to the COVID-19 virus? I am sure that there will be guidelines for disinfecting and for enhanced cleaning for everyone, for every organization, from schools to governments to businesses to daycare centers. I know that will be part of the plan that will enable us to reopen. What that looks like right now, I'm sorry, I don't have that information. And when those reopenings will be allowed, I'm sorry, I don't have that information. So another resident asked how many testing sites are currently available in Fullerton and Orange County in general, if you know. What's the city of Fullerton doing to increase the number of testing sites and tests available for residents? So as I mentioned earlier, the Orange County Health Agency is rolling out a plan for 18 testing sites throughout the county. That plan is still being developed, and as we get more information on it, we will give that information to you. Another resident asked, I'll just read her question. It's very important for residents to be heard by the city council and you, the mayor. Please explain why public comments are not being read completely during your virtual council meetings. I would ask that they be read in their entirety because public comments allow us to know that you hear us. This is important all the time, but especially now. The city council does receive all public comments that are submitted electronically. And then you can all see all of those public comments as they are posted online after the city council meeting. As part of the governor's executive order in March, he exempted the need to read aloud all of the public comments during this time. That was part of the package of exemptions to the Brown Act that the governor put in place during this crisis. So there's another question about where can Fullerton and Orange County residents submit questions and get actual answers in response to them. I think it goes along this whole line that I know I think about and that you do. We want answers. And there's a general frustration from this resident, as I think from most people out there, that they're just not getting the answers they need. And I want to tell you here in Fullerton, if you have gone to our website and looked through the COVID updates that we have there and seen the links to other resources that we have there, if you still have questions, you can call City Hall, and managers, executive staff are ready to answer those questions. And that phone number is 714-738-6300. Again, we're not going to have all the answers, but if you have questions, please, you can pick up the phone and we will do our best to answer your questions. And the phone number is 714-738-6300. Another question from a resident is about another question is about community choice energy. And the question is, now that INRAC, which is the Infrastructure and Natural Resources Advisory Committee here at the city, they have recommended community choice energy as a potential strategy for generating revenue for local energy efficient programs and cost savings. Would you consider agendizing or discussing community choice energy as a tool in your economic recovery plan for the city? My answer to that is yes. Community choice energy is already on the radar screen of the city council because of the many citizens who have inquired about it and because of the INRAC recommendation, and that will be coming to city council in. Another question from a resident was, should swimming pools be closed? As a member of the Alamos Verdes Swim Club, I'm concerned it is still open during the isolation time. The city has put out guidelines for swimming pools that is on our website, that is on our Instagram feed, and private, I believe this is a private swimming pool, and I would encourage you to address your questions to that association that's running that. And I'll make sure that the guidelines that the city posted last week about swimming pools get specifically to this Las Lomas Verdes Swim Club for you. And I believe we have your email address as well, because this was one of the email submitted questions, and we'll get that specific answer back to you. There's another question. What is Fullerton doing with homeless people who refuse services and shelter? And regardless of the COVID-19 crisis, that is always a good question to ask. The city of Fullerton was the first in our county to create full-time police positions to interact and help the homeless in our community. Our homeless liaison officers are still working during this time to get services and shelter, especially, I mean, now with the warm weather, it's just one more reason that we try to make sure that every homeless neighbor that we have is served with the resources that we have. I'm probably know that the National Guard Armory in Fullerton, which serves as an emergency cold weather shelter, had to be shut down as a shelter because the governor activated the National Guard during this time. So we've temporarily set up a 24/7 center at the Independence Park Community Room. And there's an outdoor courtyard there as well. So we are trying to get any of the homeless individuals in our community we come in contact with to seek shelter and services. We'll continue to do that. Another question from a resident, when will testing be available for Fullerton residents? Again, the Orange County Health Agency is rolling out a plan for testing, and I am as eager as you to see the timeline for that rollout. Another question is from another resident, should we report neighbors' parties? I would say that right now we're all told to stay at home unless we have to go out for essential trips. And rather than giving my opinion on this, I would just direct you to what the rules are, and that and let you know that our law enforcement has been called out to parks, to residences, to businesses where there are people who fear that those there aren't adhering to the standards. That has happened. There's another question about this person has been walking around the city to get more exercise and has almost tripped a few times on the many potholes in our streets. When will the roads in Fullerton be repaired? A couple things I want to mention in this. First, her statement that she's been walking around the city more to get exercise. I know there are people who have complained that as a city we have not closed our parks and our trails and have voiced opinions that we should. Our parks and trails remain open. We have closed the parking lots of our parks to discourage people from overuse and capacity issues, but have felt that exercise is essential to people. Getting out in the open is essential to people, so those do remain open. We have closed the Pine Forest staircase because we weren't able to assure proper social distancing for that particular recreational opportunity. But the opportunity exists for each of us to use proper social distancing in our other parks and on our trails. And if you are out there getting fresh air, I would encourage you to do that. The part of the question though is when will the roads in Fullerton be repaired? The city council has been working very hard to address the horrible condition of our roads. Unfortunately, it's a condition that was decades in the making, and it's going to take a very long time to, as you mentioned, fix this problem. But the city council has done things like sure that new revenues from the sale of properties specifically go to repairing our roads. We have prioritized, we've had to be creative to find money to fix roads, and so we've prioritized roads that also need water and sewer pipe repairs so that our water fund can pay for a third of that work, our sewer fund can pay for a third of that work, and then our general fund, which is where we get road funding, can pay for the other third. So we have creatively partnered up those funds to try to get more roads repaired. And we're also actively seeking state and county funding, Measure M2 funding, as well as gas tax funding to fix our roads. Another question was asked, would you please send me the link to where I can access the questions submitted to the town hall? And all these questions will be posted on the city's website after the recordings ended. Let's see, this question is Fullerton's count is 67 as of April 26th, I think the case count. Can the city shed some light on why our count has steadily increased and overtaken neighboring cities like Yorba Linda? What major clusters are there that residents need to know about? The Orange County Public Health Agency will not release addresses or identify clusters in order to protect patient privacy and adhere to HIPAA, which is the Health Insurance Portability Accountability Act. That says that a patient's medical information may not be released without their consent. So Fullerton, I would say, does have a large population of at-risk individuals through skilled nursing facilities, assisted living, senior living communities, and a large homeless population, which I can only speculate may play a role in our number of positive cases. But again, the county healthcare agency, because of HIPAA, won't release those details that you're asking for. There's another question about why our roads are in such bad shape. We're told at least 15 years ago we were on a schedule for complete repair. All they do is patch over and over. We live next to Golden Hill School and have a lot of traffic, and all the roads are in bad shape. I would say, I mean, the Golden Hill area has been on our radar for sewer replacement. And street improvements. The sewer improvements are driving the road improvements in that area. And yet, due to factors such as available funding, system priorities, and other utility priorities, work in this area is pushed out. Most of the roads in that area, by the standards that government uses, are in fair condition, but I know that doesn't answer or satisfy your question. And while I was not on the city council 15 years ago, I don't know what you were told about a schedule for complete repair. But what I can tell you is that I know that this city council is committed to fixing our roads. It is really, I mean, from a financial standpoint, one of the top problems that we have to get our hands around. And all I can tell you is that we're trying to do that. So there are some more questions about will businesses be reopened by summer, and if so, how? I certainly hope so. And as I said, we're creating guidelines for when we have the ability to have a phased opening, as the federal and state government have both talked about. Another question about residential rent. If we can't pay rent, if this continues, what will you do? The city council, I just will say the city council will continue to reassess the situation here in our local community, what the governor and the county health agency recommend with regards to phased openings, and the financial picture for California to address things like that. When will the city of Fullerton take over the abandoned railway along Bast and Cherry? I don't have an answer for that, but I will ask our city public works director to address that. There are other questions about when do you think gyms will open? And again, I have to direct you to the county healthcare agency. That takes me through all of the questions. There were a couple duplicates, as I mentioned, and I also told you that the questions will be listed on our website afterwards so you can see them. I would just say as we close that, again, I'm really proud of our community because we've really come together. I mean, this has been one of the times where we all have to come together and sacrifice in order for this to be effective. And we're looking out for each other. I've heard great stories of neighbors helping, and it's been really encouraging to see that. I know that we're going to get through this and be even stronger and more resilient. And we're going to keep communicating with you as much as possible. As I said earlier, as we know information, we are going to pass it on to you. And throughout this week, I'm going to be holding some meetings, as I said earlier, with various nonprofit and service industries, as well as our business community, to talk with them about planning for eventual reopening. And our our Deputy Economic Development Director has been in close contact with our business community, with our local Chamber of Commerce, to make sure that we're as supportive as we possibly can be to getting our local economy working again. As I said too, we've started our own economic recovery advisory group comprised of business and community groups that talk about what our reopening would look like and how we can collaboratively emerge out of this together. And I would just encourage you, well, I'll just say, I know all your questions have not been answered today. And this whole session may have opened up more questions for you, I understand. So please continue to bring your questions to us, and we'll do our best to answer them. Again, through the phone number that I gave you, 738-6300. You can call that number and with your questions, or go to the website, cityofullerton.com, go to our COVID update and see if your questions are answered there. I, again, appreciate all the sacrifices everyone's making, and I encourage you to stay tough, to stay safe, to stay healthy, and I'll look forward to talking with you again.